Hi, everybody. Hi, Anchor. Just going to give it a couple moments and let people join in. Hello, I'm seeing some thumbs up. Hello, Manuel from Accenture. Um, hello. Hi. Okay, looks like we have a quorum. Wonderful to see all of you. My name is Ilana Rosen. I am the Director of Innovation and Strategy for Old Navy. I run our innovation practice, and then I do lots of strategy. So today we are going to talk about how to co-create strategy, and I'm so excited to have you all with us. Please drop where you're from in the chat if you'd like to. I'm saying hello from a very sunny San Francisco this morning, and I hope wherever you are in the world, you're enjoying World Strategy Day so far. And with that, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to hop into some particulars. So this session will be two different parts. The first will be around theory. If any of you guys have seen a talk I gave to Strategy Factory a couple years ago, we're going to touch on the 6 principles you need to co-create strategy. This is about democratizing the process with the talent in your organization. The second part of what we'll talk about today is applying that theory to the real world. So I'm going to give you guys some tips and tricks for how you can actually run sessions and why we use the methodology we use to create a safe space for people. So it's going to be some learning and some like a application of the theory, and there'll actually be a take-home downloadable template. So if you go to Strategy Factory, you'll be able to deep dive into that sort of 6 principles of co-creation in the earlier talk, as well as download this very tactical how to actually get from A to B and co-create your strategy. With that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So excited to have you guys with us today. Okay, can you see? I've shared the wrong screen, unfortunately. One moment. Technology, right, guys? Awesome. Okay, so can everybody see my screen? Please just give me some thumbs up, some hearts, all those good things. Oh, great. Thanks, guys. All right, so we're going to dive right into it. So what are these 6 principles of strategy, of co-creating strategy? Well, first we need to think about what strategy is, period, right? So I beg, borrow, steal, and praise someone named Clay Christensen. So he has since passed, but he's sort of the father of modern day disruption, has been a father of modern day strategy. Really recommend checking out his literature, but he defines strategy as having 2 components. Normally it can be really complex, but it's 2 parts in his mind. It's a clearly defined destination, so you know where you want to go, and you know the directions you're going to take to get there. Okay. So that's how we can define strategy, but how can we think about strategy as a tool, right? So it's not just a thing that sits on the shelf. It's also an opportunity to co-create this vision with your internal stakeholders and create a change management platform where you'll actually take the naysayers language, or those difficult partners you may or may not have in your organization, and you give them back a strategy that echoes their own voice. So there's 6 principles here. First is discovery, then yes and, time-bound activity, sense of play, diversity of thought, and room for gratitude. I'm going to go through these at quite a clip. And if you're interested in doubling down, again, I'd love to direct you to go to Strategy Factory and see that previous talk. So with that, and these will be the foundation for what you see applied later on in today's session. So the first one is discovery. So what is discovery? In my mind, using the innovation mindset, it's ostensibly a listening tour. And instead of just looking outside and seeing, okay, what are my competitors doing? What are other organizations that offer similar services or products doing? It's actually looking inside to your internal talent and the people who have a pulse on the day to day. And these are the folks that actually have to go execute the strategy at the end. So what you do when you start the process by incorporating them is you make people feel heard and included. So they're going to be a lot more likely to actually execute the thing that gets rolled out later on. So discovery first. Yes, and. So in sessions, like in co-creation sessions, I'm always saying this, you'll see it later in today's session. You want to set psychological safety up front in every meeting and interactions. So in working sessions, this will look like me talking through the yes and principle, which is ostensibly not using the word no. I know I said not and no in the same sentence, but instead flipping the script and saying, okay, what's the build on this? So yes, and let's add more, resources to that project to ensure that we can get across the line, as opposed to no, we can't do that in the amount of time that you asked. So that's a little example of yes and. Time-bound activities. This one is one of my favorites, super tactical. When you're in meetings, you want to basically segment activities out. So it goes beyond having just an agenda where you say, how many minutes each activity will take. You actually use timers in sessions. And I know that can be a little bit stressful to people, but it follows this principle of done, not perfect, right? So you make sure that you finish what you started. And that happens so rarely. Usually we're sort of talking past each other and don't feel that need to wrap when we're working. The next one is sense of play. I can't stress how important this is. People talk about strategy being done in the war room. That's sort of, I think, a older way of working, right? Like we don't want this group up here who's not connected to the day to day, who's frankly, not vulnerable enough to be playful and open. Determining what strategy we have. We want to create psychological safety, creativity, all of these things. And so use GIFs, use images, laugh, make jokes. We can get all the work done while also having a good time. So a little bit of myth busting about the war room. Diversity of thought. So different backgrounds plus radical candor equals psychological safety. It also leads to better outcomes. So you'll see sort of these middling outcomes, these very average market performance. This is what the research says. If you have a lot of folks that all agree, right? So, okay, maybe it'll be in the middle, and it probably will be an easier conversation to have, right? If everyone is in agreement. What happens when you diversify the folks in the room, whether it's by function, title, cultural background, whatever attributes you want to look at. But when we diversify thought and perspective, we then go from average sort of outputs to either really, really, really outsized outputs or negative outputs because folks, don't agree with each other. And so that's why we have to use these yes and statements. We have to build psychological safety. We need to make it safe for everyone to speak up and give room for everybody to speak. That's how you get that outsized performance from your group, because they're just frankly bringing more to the table than you would if there was agreement across. Room for gratitude. This is my absolute, go-to, one of my favorites. When I'm running sessions, I will end it with what resonated with you most today. We have this cognitive bias. So we have a psychological bias in our brains called the recency bias. This means you're most likely to remember the last thing you heard. So if I'm asking people what resonated with you most today, and we're going around the room, imagine a bunch of really senior stakeholders, maybe who don't get along with each other. We're going around the room and they're each hearing, what a great experience it was, for the whole unit, right? And at the same time, so they leave, with this positive psychology mentality of like, we leave on a high note. And then I leave understanding what they liked most, right? So I, as a strategist, now understand the language and the sort of building blocks I can hang on to that generate positive feelings, right? And I'll bring that through my strategy as I craft it later on. So this is not only to let everyone feel really good and end on a high note, it's also to give you valuable data about what people enjoyed, and what language they're really hanging on to from the session. All right. So I know that was super fast. There's a version of this that's a full 20 minutes on strategyfactory.com. So if this is really interesting to you, I highly recommend you go to the website and watch the entire video. Now we're going to flip the switch, and we're going to go into applying this theory into practice. So translating theory to practice, we're going to define our destination and co-create how to get here. So we're going to do this as a group. I would love for you guys streaming in to go grab some pieces of paper, maybe a pen, if you're eco-friendly, a tablet, whatever else it is, but try to step away from your keyboard for a few minutes for me if you can. And I would also love, our live participants to come into session and join me. Really excited to see all you guys. Hi, Sarah. So we have some amazing participants today joining in. We're actually going to do this workshop live with you guys. So please go ahead and mute yourself if you are just joining in today. Luke, Sarah, Isabel, Laura, Kyle, wonderful to see you guys. Everyone streaming at home, say hello, or in the office or wherever you stream from. So with that, we're gonna get into it. So you'll have a downloadable version of this agenda. I always use this when I plan sessions. So I'm thinking about the intention, and I'm thinking about the desired outcome. I have roles and responsibilities, and I have some rules for the participants. So these include camera on, just like I just asked you, no keyboard during brainstorming in the initial components of this if you can. And then we're again going to get done, not perfect. That's over here. It has like a funny little star if you can see it. And this is the idea that we're finishing what we started. And this is the first step, not the last step, right? This isn't what you're going to hand over to the organization or your executives. It's the building blocks you use to generate your strategy. I'd like you to just notice one thing here. Under the timing and agenda, it says pause between phases for takeaways. Normally, I will not take a timeout in the middle of a session and explain why I just asked the question or share the activity that I did. Because you guys are zooming in or air meeting in today, we're going to take that time out, and I'm going to explain some of the logic, pulling back in those 6 principles, and then we'll resume again. So it's going to be a different cadence than you would do if you were leading the live session. All right. And with that, we're actually going to hop right into it. And I'm going to go back into co-creating strategy mode. So every time I run one of these co-creation sessions, I am sharing these 6 principles. And you'll see that these 6 principles reflect what we just talked about, but now I'm sharing them with the participants in the room. So there's yes and, building on one another. There's quantity over quality. This is super important for the brainstorming session. I want you guys to generate as many ideas as you can. Parking lot for rabbit holes. It's your job when you're leading these sessions to be, I say, firm but warm. So, if we are getting taken off the path we want to go to because we want to get done, not perfect, we need to steer the conversation back. So I always make a note that, if we go into a tangent, I'm going to note that thing down, and then I'm going to steer us back. And I actually tell participants this so that they're not taken aback if I do this. Curiosity over judgment. This is really important. We're here to learn and be inspired by one another, not to judge what's coming out of one another's mouths. So this is a no judgment zone right now. Need for speed. You heard this with time-bound activity. So we're going to be using a timer, and then play keeps fatigue away. You've also heard this sense of play. So really, any smiles, any cracks you want to make while you're sharing, please go ahead, live participants. And with that, I'm going to hop into it. So our icebreaker, and feel free, I know I said no keyboards, but feel free if you're streaming in, you can also add this in 15 seconds or less to our live participants. Can you share your first name and the first job you ever had? Feel free to jump in.
I'll kick us off. Hi, I'm Luke, and my first job was at my local pizza place.
Love it. Pizza place. Okay. Who else?
Hi, my name is Kyle, and my first job was actually at my mother's restaurant as a dishwasher and bus person.
Awesome. It's my first job as well. Who else? I see Isabel's off mute.
Hi, I'm Isabel. My first job was a business that I created where I sold cakes. I had 3 customers, awesome. And I chose a not a creative name at all. It was Isabel's Cakes.
Wonderful. Awesome. All right, Laura.
Hey, my name's Laura. Nice to see you all again. My first job was a children's play area, and it was miserable. I have a child now, but I'm definitely not a fan of children after that experience.
Fair enough. And guys, these are great stories. 15 seconds or less for the last participants. Sarah?
That'll be me. Hi, I'm Sarah. My first job was in a kitchen shop. It was called Kitcher Kitchen, and it sold utensils, Le Creuset pots, really, really random stuff. But it was amazing.
Awesome.
It still
Thanks.
exists.
Wow. Okay. Longevity. That is a good business to look at for World Strategy Day, perhaps. So wonderful. Now we're going to take our first pause, our first time out, and I'm going to explain why I asked the question I just asked. Okay. So what this does, especially if you have a bunch of senior folks in the room, is instead of thinking about the function, the team, what interests you represent, you're all of a sudden seeing one another as humans. And we've all had a first job, right? It doesn't matter if you're 80 or you're 21. We've all had a first job, and that has nothing to do with how much tenure you have at a company. So this is about democratizing the voices in the room and telling everybody you guys are equal and we're all people, right? So that's building that psychological safety, and that's making it get those. We're hoping to drive towards those outsized outlier diversity of thought performance. And this is one of those ways to do that, democratizing opinion. So anyways, I'm so excited. My words are all tangled. So I'm going to tag us back in. We're no longer paused, and we're going to go into brainstorming. And if you like this structure, again, there'll be a downloadable file. So I'll take us in a timeout after this, but everybody at home, please push away your keyboards if you can. And I'd love to give you 2 minutes. It'll be quiet, but you're supposed to generate as many ideas as you can. 2 minutes, heads down time. How might we create greater alignment in our organizations? Go. Jotting down as many ideas as you can. And just a sidebar, I keep cameras on so I can understand whether people need more time, if they're confused, how they're going, if they're engaged. So that just helps me as a facilitator and a strategist gauge. Give them about another 75 seconds or so. And in sessions, I would be using a timer right here because I'm presenting my screen. I cannot, but in sessions, I would be. And the participants would be able to see that same timer. All right. Another 45 seconds. Generating as many ideas. How can we create greater alignment in our organizations, in our small businesses, in our startups, in our big companies? How do we generate greater alignment? Awesome. Just about there. See the participants chugging away. Hope you were at home too. Okay, ding. Imagine I'm a timer. So what I'm going to do is show you the next piece. So for all of our live participants, I'd now like you to, choose 1 to 3 of your top ideas to share. Okay, I'm going to give you about 20 seconds to do this. So look at that huge list that you generated, and folks streaming in, you can do the same thing. Look at that huge list that you generated and pick your favorite ideas. 1 to 3 of them. All right. Rock and roll. And now we are on our way. So this is like the live interactive part of the session. Please forgive any spelling errors if I'm not truly getting to the heart of the matter. This is all live in front of you. So really exciting times. And it is about listening to the folks in the room. So I will ask that until the live participants are done, please hold off on sharing your favorite ideas too. And when they're done, dump them all in the chat. I would also love to see your 1 to 3 top ideas. Okay, and with that, I think I see at the top of my screen, Kyle. So Kyle, what are 1 to 3 of your favorite ideas around how to generate greater alignment in the organization? I'm going to set a timer for this group so that we don't go over. All right. So let's say 3 minutes. So we're rapid firing. Okay.
Yeah, so I think for me, one of the areas that I really see a lot of alignment is clear focus areas. So across the organization, this is what we want to create activity towards. This is what we want to focus on. Everyone's working towards that, and that's going to help connect goals to each other. The other thing is just easy to understand outcomes.
Transparent outcomes. I love that. All right. Who else? 1 to 3 ideas.
I'll go. I think for me is fostering collaboration. So making sure teams have the space to actually work together, maybe identifying like key people in each team that actually work together quite clearly, but really giving that space that people can connect and share ideas without judgment.
Love it. Create space for connection. Awesome. Awesome. I love the cross-functional component of that. What else?
I'm happy to hop in.
Yeah.
So I think a key part of getting alignment across teams is getting that buy-in from the different levels of the org. So sort of the what's in it for me, so that people can be more engaged with it.
Yeah.
Part of that is then potentially assigning roles or tasks to different people so they feel involved in their own way. Everyone sort of likes to understand where they fit in. Part of that as well is maybe, brainstorming activities like we're doing now, or team bonding and building activities as well.
Love it. Great. Awesome. All right. We got 1:20 left. Let's go.
I'll jump in. So communication or over communication through events, newsletters, town halls, all that good stuff, so that people really are hearing all the same things again and again. Adopting a framework, for example, balanced scorecard or something equivalent to help people stay aligned. And investing in team building was my last one. So bringing people together, be it virtually or in person.
Awesome. Love it.
All right, let's see if I can beat the clock here. Last ones that I had, a lot of mine got used already, but setting those clear and unified goals, actively communicating company strategy frequently, creating a consistent feedback loop.
Oh, love it.
And identifying and removing any alignment blockers for teams.
Block and tackle for teams. I love that. Okay, so if we zoom out, look how many ideas we generated in less than 2 minutes, right? So that was about 1 minute and that was about 2 minutes and 40 seconds or so. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the timer. If we look at this, so 12, 15, like 20 different ideas in 2 minutes and 40 seconds across 6 different participants with different experiences. This is highly efficient, and it's a way to get diversity of thought and buy-in because everyone's listening to each other instead of talking past one another. And it's not about Kyle being right or Isabel being right. It's about getting your ideas onto the table for everybody to see, right? So it's visual communication. It's working towards the same goal. It takes a lot of the tension out of the strategy process when we ask these how might we questions. And the other thing that it does is everyone has a voice. You'll notice that I asked each and every participant to speak. That is very intentionally done. And I'm gonna, I reset, but I'm back in presenting mode. So it lets everybody in the organization have a chance. And this, sometimes people are introverts, sometimes they're extroverts. What that heads down time does is it makes room for different modalities of working. Some people speak and talk at the same time. It's the loudest voice in the room that wins a lot of the time. We strip that out by giving everybody heads down space to process what they liked. And I know we're at time. There's so much more that we can share. And I would love to see your top 1 to 3 ideas in the chat that you generated around alignment. And I'd love to leave all of you with this question. And I know this says live participants, but it's really for all of the participants that are here today. I'd love to leave you with this question. What resonated with you most today? And with that, I'll say goodbye. Thanks so much, everybody.